I might go put more lemon and lime in it.
Okay.
Actually, that tasted better. Maybe the ice
Maybe
is
you're
melted
drunk?
enough. Well, there's that. Off of one sip, that was like a shot of vodka. So
Yeah, I guess some of this we might use. So I made her drink.
yes,
In my glass that she gave me.
it's impressive.
I got these glasses for Christmas.
That is impressive.
Yeah.
Oh,
Show
yes.
the polka
I'm
dots.
sorry. Listen, you gave me like 3 shots of vodka in this. Maybe we should go ahead and get started.
Okay.
All
let's get started. Okay. So first of all, you all, we apologize for
Video quality
sound quality
and audio quality. We're trying out new programs to see if we can increase our quality. Because we've gotten messages about, it being less than stellar. So we're trying to figure out better ways to improve that, and we want to improve it. We've talked about it for a long time.
Well, I mean, because we've been using Zoom, which is not set up.
It's not great.
Podcasting. It's
Right.
set up for meetings, which is fine.
Yeah,
But I can already tell that this is not
it's not ideal.
going to be what we're going to use. So
No, yeah. So we're working
we're
on
sorry.
it. Yeah, and we apologize for quality. However, we're gonna have a good time doing it,
We are.
especially since I've had a drink before this, and then I made that one, and then my mother made me one, and I think it
Yeah.
contains probably 3 shots of vodka.
So you also need to know our backstory. We've already recorded one episode
Oh,
that
yes.
didn't record because I didn't click the right button on one of these new programs we're trying out. So
yeah.
we get to do this all over again.
all over again, but it's gonna be a good time. We're gonna have a solid time. It's gonna be great.
Yes. Although now we're in the dark because we're outside. We're banished outside because
banished.
we have family home for Christmas, and we either had to do this in the living room where people are trying to watch TV and play video games and whatnot, or do it out here on the deck where it's freezing cold and we're not bothering anybody. So
Yeah.
guess what got chosen? Yeah.
Our teeth are chattering.
Yeah.
But
We're
that probably
outside.
won't come over the poor audio quality. So there's that.
Okay. Welcome to episode 52 of Eat, Drink, Write, an Urban Fantasy Whiteboard. We are going to talk about making your readers love your main character.
Yeah.
But before we get into all of that, how was your week?
It's fantastic. I've had a week off at this point, about 6 days off.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, 6
Yeah,
days
'cause-
off.
Last episode was recorded 1 week from today.
Yeah,
Ago.
and
That
I
was
had-
your day off.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
that was you weren't.
oh my gosh.
Oh,
I was working that Monday. So today is Monday. We're recording again before this comes out tonight at midnight.
mhm.
But no, it's been fabulous. I haven't seen Courtney, my older sister, in a year because of COVID. So we've gotten to hang out and talk, which has been amazing. My girlfriend got to come and hang out on Christmas with us.
That was awesome.
Yeah. So it's been an amazingly relaxing week, which I haven't had in probably 9 months
Mhm.
since the start of COVID and everything.
Mhm.
So it has been stellar, which is apparently my word today. So
We usually do have words.
it's been very good.
It's been a good week for me as well. I can't remember if I told you all I was going to the doctor, or I might have gone to the doctor Monday the day, but my thyroid is fine. Everything is fine, which is good news because it's not cancer.
Right,
Bad news because we don't know what it is,
right.
but it's not cancer, so I'll take that. Christmas was wonderful. Had a wonderful time. Got all my children
It
home.
was amazing.
Yeah, excellent time. Now we're getting ready for New Year's. We're gonna have fondue for New Year's.
Yep.
And actually, we got another episode of Myth and Monsters coming out before the end of this month.
We
So,
do for New Year's.
Yeah, so maybe we'll be eating fondue with that. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah.
I suppose we're not eating for this one.
Oh, we're not eating.
Which I
Maybe
imagine
that's part of our problem.
listen. That is a huge problem considering the strength of this drink.
Yeah.
So what are you drinking then?
Oh, I'm drinking my wine, and I'm drinking it in a beautiful wine glass that I got from my beautiful daughter.
This one, this
Mhm.
daughter. Yeah, I'm drinking vodka sodas. And I've had one, and then
I think it's vodka soda.
I think you're right, with like a dash of lime,
Yes.
like a dash of lime. But it's good. It's good. I think by the end of this, I might not be able to talk, but that's okay because you did most of this research.
Okay. I have jokes.
Oh, great. Yes.
So
I might laugh at them right now.
That would be a change. So it's New Year's, so they're kind of New Year's jokes.
Okay.
Where do you practice math on New Year's?
Where?
Times Square.
Oh God.
Why do you need a jeweler on New Year's Eve?
Why?
To ring in the new year.
Mhm. That was a good one. All right.
What did the little champagne bottle call his father?
What?
Pop.
Oh God. That was a good one.
So those were fun. Little New Year's humor.
Yeah.
So this episode idea actually came from our patron, Jen. She's given us several good ideas, which we will be doing. She said she's curious about how to get your reader involved in and caring about the main character.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the problems she has when she's reading a book, is getting through those first couple chapters before the character starts to grow on you. And she's like, there's got to be a better way. And
Right.
so she asked us to talk about it. And it puts me in mind of the pilot episode of a new miniseries.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some pilots, you hit the road running and it's like you're hooked from page one. And some you're like, well, it was the pilot. Let's give it a little time.
Give it some time. Right.
So as writers, we're trying to go for that one that hooks the reader and gets you going from ground one. How do you make your reader care about your
Main character.
Thank
Right.
you.
Yeah.
So the first thing is starting in the right place. And we
Mhm.
talked a little bit about this before in another episode. I can't remember
We
what
did
it
like
was.
Act 1 or something like
Yeah,
that.
beginnings or something. So think about what is happening at the start of your book. Why is this the hook? What is it about this scene that you've chosen that's going to be the hook?
Right.
And then use that scene to help your reader connect with your character.
Yeah.
Because it's not just the events, okay, it can be all action and excitement, but like Jen said, you want to be connected to the main character. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
you don't care what's going on.
Right.
So your character's actions, others' reactions, all of that can be used to build this connection.
Mm-hmm.
Your reader uses memory, knowledge, and experience from their own personal life to fill in those gaps about your character. So you want to tie your reader emotionally to your character, and it does that in a way that just plot and action and all of that can't do by itself.
Right. Right.
And so think about yourself too when you're writing, because we're all readers. Writers are readers for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I mean, you always hear the mantra, use experience to write
Yes.
your novels.
Write what you know.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes.
Don't laugh at me. Listen.
I'm just laughing. I'm not really laughing at you. Everything's
Listen.
funny right now.
Good grief. I don't know. I feel like you're very much laughing at me. You made me a strong drink.
I'm sorry.
No, it's great.
Okay.
This is
she's
not
not complaining.
It's
but
not a
she
bad
is
thing.
complaining.
Listen.
Okay. So what makes people care about your character? What is it? What traits, what actions, what thoughts will do this? How do you do this?
Right. And so you mentioned, starting in the right place, and we've talked about starting with actions and how you need to do more than just action. But I think starting with an action is actually the right way to go.
Yeah.
Don't start with scenery. Don't start with weather or a dream or waking up or
Mhm.
that kind of thing. There are obviously exceptions to that rule. There's an
Always.
exception to every rule.
Always.
But in general, you want to start with your main character doing something
Mhm.
as opposed to observing something.
Yeah. And you're going to use the scene, that action, all of that to bring these things that we're about to talk about into play.
Right.
Okay. So empathy is really the root of all of this.
Yeah.
This is what's critical in making your reader engage with the character. It's easy to do this over time.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to do it right off the bat, out the door, where, like Jen was talking
Right.
about.
On page 1.
Right.
I mean, you want the agent that, assuming you're querying an agent, but either an agent or your reader, right, in general, to be emotionally connected with your main character right from page 1.
Yeah. So how do you do that?
Right.
Well, vulnerability is one of those things that invokes empathy.
Right.
When a reader sees vulnerability in your hero, it strengthens that connection. The key is to make that connection between the object and your hero's emotional frailty so that the reader sees that and understands it.
Yeah.
I guess understanding is
Yeah.
on your reader's part. You have to work this into the scene to build that connection with the character. You can show fear. We all have been afraid before. Think about whatever your scene is. Is this a big monster starting to? We would all be scared. So when you have your main character evoke that emotion, the reader is going to connect with that. Uncertainty.
Yep.
We are all uncertain all the time. Nobody is 100%. Even the most confident looking people are not.
Have some uncertainty
That's
somewhere.
right. And so it helps the reader connect on that level. Think about what you would do in that situation, because you are a reader. What makes you get what that character is doing at that moment.
Yeah.
Animals and children are a way to do this.
Absolutely.
Everybody loves animals. Everybody loves children. You pet the animal. You show sympathy to an animal. You hug the animal. That's going to make the reader go, "Aw,"
right,
and pull you in.
Right.
The way the character deals with those is a great way to get that reader connection.
Absolutely. I agree with that, because, and, I think the main reason for that is that animals and children are innocent. They're
Yes.
They've done no wrongs.
And they're vulnerable themselves.
Right. And they don't have understanding of the world and like that kind of stuff. So like the way that your main character interacts with those, animals and children kind of shows how they interact with those who are innocent.
Yes.
So I think that's a really good way to get your reader to be like, oh, they're good people kind of thing. Right.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessary for, going back to the animals and children thing, it's not necessary to show your character being uncertain and fearful in order to get your reader to like them.
That's just one way to do it.
An example. Right. Showing them as caring, as a fighter, as someone who does the right thing would also work.
Right.
So just think about that first scene as you're writing it. How can you get your reader to empathize with what your main character is doing?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You can also use disadvantage to your advantage as a writer.
Yeah.
Give your character an inescapable social, political, or economic disadvantage.
Yeah.
Readers don't want to see innocent people suffer.
Yeah.
They root for the underdog.
Mm-hmm.
Injustice is another thing that works for this. If your opening scene has the character experiencing an injustice, the reader is going to want to fight for them. Whether they even know anything more about them or not, they just see this person experiencing injustice, and that's going to be an automatic connection.
Absolutely. I love doing research for this podcast because it makes me realize the things that I've done in my own writing without realizing that I've done them.
We do that a lot.
Right. So I like this point, this idea of disadvantage, to get your main character to be sympathetic, whatever, to get your reader to like your main character. I think I did this with Mac, where Ava is automatically accusing her of something that, there's no evidence for.
You did it, I think, with all of your books, because in Louie and Delaney, when we first meet Delaney, we already see her at a disadvantage with her boss and in her work setting.
Right.
You see Louie at a disadvantage, being forced to do something she doesn't want to do.
Right.
So you use this technique in 3 of your books that I can think of right off the bat.
Yeah. Which is really interesting, because I never thought of it that way. Like, how do I get my characters to be more likable? I don't know. They just, I feel like they ended up being that way. Obviously, I'm not published, but
right.
I feel like I've used these tactics without realizing it.
Yeah. You want to create sympathy for your character.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have a note here that I'm pretty sure I put in the wrong spot. But it says, give them limitations. I like that. I like characters that can't do everything. And I'm pretty sure you bring that up later.
I do, and I know exactly where you meant that to be. So we'll come back to that.
Okay,
one.
Yeah.
Show your character having emotions for others.
Yeah.
That is also something that we as readers connect with. Have them worry about someone. Have them fear for someone.
Yeah.
Katniss in the Hunger Games, her fear for her sister, and that was fairly early on.
Very early on, when she, when her sister's name was pulled. And all that.
That was the inciting incident in that story. So
yeah, I think Katniss is a great example, because I think everything about her revolves around her family.
Yes.
Everything she's doing, everything she is fighting for is for her family.
She is not a super likable character herself.
I think it depends on qualities.
Yes, but we connect with her even though she's not that, oh, rah, rah, everything's good. I'm going to, she cares. That connection is built because we see that worry that she has for
Right.
other people. She
Right.
doesn't put herself first. And
Absolutely.
we see that even though it might be hard to connect with her on an emotional level in the beginning because,
Right.
she's distant from Gail. She's,
Right.
she holds herself back
Right.
for good reason.
Honestly, throughout the whole series, she's very much keeps herself distant.
Yes.
Because they do the whole Katniss Peeta matchup
Yes.
in order to get the Capitol to like them and give them
Mhm.
favors and all that kind of stuff. But you see from the beginning, she's hunting to feed her family.
Yes.
She takes Prim's place when her name is drawn and
Yes.
that kind of thing. So right off, we're like, oh, Katniss is providing for her family.
Yes.
She's got all this weight on her shoulders.
And
We
so,
automatically like her.
right off the bat.
Mhm.
Yeah, we like her. That
Right.
sucks us in. We don't have to wait 3 chapters in or, okay, let's give it another chapter. That was a book that
Right.
sucked you in right
Absolutely.
from the very beginning.
Yep.
The cool factor. This is another way to...
Actually, can I go back to an urban fantasy
Yeah.
example
Absolutely.
for the character having emotions for others? Mercy Thompson. Very, very
Oh my
popular, but right
That's-
from page 1,
yes.
specifically from the beginning.
I didn't even put her in this.
I know.
didn't even think about it.
She's a very, very caring person throughout the series, but right from page 1 of Moon Called, the very first book, she cares for Mac, who wanders into her garage and is like, I need money. And she's like, you know
He's
what?
a homeless kid.
Yeah. And she's like, you know what? Come on in, get warmed up. You can work for me and I'll give you some food and I'll give you some money and we
Mhm.
can work this out. And she knew right away, he's a werewolf, which is dangerous for her. He's just this kid who could bring in trouble because, he's obviously run away from somewhere
Right.
and that kind of thing. And she's like, come on in.
And
You
she's
can work with
this
me.
way all the way through, but you're right. That catches...
From page
'cause
1.
I asked your father when
Yeah.
I was trying to do the research and I was trying to come up with ideas. I asked him how that book started because I am how many books into that series?
Oh,
Are
well,
we?
like 11 or something.
And I haven't
Wow.
reread number 1 in a long, long
Mhm.
time. So I could not even remember how we met her.
Yeah.
And what it was about her.
It was in her garage, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's one that I just wanted to bring up because it is an urban fantasy and it's one that is well known. Like most of you, if you are urban fantasy fans, have probably read it or heard of it
Yes.
or whatever.
Yeah.
So she's a really good example of, we like her because she cared for other characters.
She, and all the way through and still to this day.
Oh, absolutely.
Everybody else is more important than herself.
Yeah.
Which is not always the way it should be, but that's the way she is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this cool factor, I got this from the Writers Helping Writers blog, which is something you all should check out.
I've heard of it.
They have all kinds of really good episodes. They have really good articles on things, and that's where I got this cool factor idea. You give your character a wish fulfillment quality, something that every reader would wish that they had.
Yeah.
That's a way to right off the bat have your reader
You're like, oh, that's so cool. I want to be
I
like
wish
this
I
character.
could be like that. Yeah. Something that makes us wish we were them. It could be a cool talent.
Yeah. I mean, think about urban fantasy specific magic is an
Yes.
easy way to bring that
Yeah.
in. Like, oh, they've got this really cool magic
how
that they can
cool
do.
is that? Yeah.
Guns, is typical. That kind of thing always ends up in urban fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
A cool job is a way to do it. Urban fantasy often uses PIs and detectives and agents, which I personally tend to shy away from just because it has been done so much in urban fantasy.
Yeah.
But those are also very good ways to get someone to be like, oh, I would love to have that job. I'd love to be in that position.
Yeah.
I would love to have that magic.
Yeah. How cool is that?
Yeah.
I mean, going along the cool factor, you could do the clothing that they wear.
Yeah.
Although that can become stereotypical too.
I mean, the motorcycle with the leather
with the
jacket.
leather,
Yeah.
but that's still cool.
Right.
And
Right. It is still cool. Just because it's cliche doesn't make it not cool.
That's
There's a
right.
reason it's cliche.
Right. And that is another way that can bring a reader to liking that character right off the bat.
Yeah.
Humor.
Yeah.
This is one I use.
Yeah.
Frickin' Fairies. Beck is so funny, and that is one thing I'm really good at in this particular book
You're
is her voice.
good at it in general.
You think so?
I think so.
But she is so funny. You're immediately right inside her head.
Mm-hmm.
She's funny at the way she looks at the world. You you really like her. She's self-aware of her shortcomings, and they're funny to her.
Yeah. You do use humor in this. I think there are other qualities about Beck, obviously, that make us like her. But from the get-go, from page 1, she's a normal person. She's like, you know what? I met these fairies 2 weeks ago, and I would love to never see one again.
Yes.
And then from there on, you're like, oh, this is a normal human. And then she becomes something more. So, like, from the get-go, you're like, oh, she's normal in this world of magic.
Yes.
She would be like me.
Yes.
So I think you make her very empathetic, sympathetic, whatever. In that,
I do think the reader connects with her because we watch her flounder.
Right. I mean, just imagine, you
ourselves.
Get tossed in the world of Fae.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, if I got tossed in the world of Fae, and automatically the fact that I ask myself that question means that I have connected with that character. That makes
that connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do like that she's self-deprecating.
She is a bit.
And we like people like that. We don't like the arrogant people often.
Right.
And she is nowhere near arrogant. But she can also laugh at herself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Urban fantasy also uses snarky characters and sassy characters.
Like us.
100%. Yes. And that's often, that often comes across as humorous. It gives a humorous element to this person because you have this, this main character who's willing to stand up to people and speak their mind with them. And that is often very funny.
And it's also clever. And isn't there a time where you hear someone say something, you're like, oh my God, they said that out loud. I would never be brave enough to say that out loud.
And urban fantasy characters typically do.
Yes.
Which is great because you're like, oh my God, she did say that out loud.
Yes. And I wish I could say that out loud. I would never be brave enough to say that out loud.
Right.
Yeah. Another thing to use to have your reader connect is tragedy.
Yeah.
So have something horrible happen right off the bat.
Yeah.
Death or loss or something painful.
Absolutely. I mean, I used it with Aiden.
Yeah.
At the page 1, she's lost her sister. She's moved away because she can't deal with it. Twin sister. So she looks exactly like her. So everybody that she knows what Haley looked like. And therefore she's like, you know what, I can't deal with it. Which is somewhat similar to the Fever series, where Mac lost her sister. I think you mentioned it later.
I do.
But they look a lot alike. And so Mac was like, you know what? I can't be in my parents' house because I look like her.
With your Mac book, it's not necessarily, it is kind of a tragedy. Right off the bat, we know her backstory because Detective Raines is there.
Yeah.
Ava. We know that this incident, it was a violent incident that happened. So it's kind of the same thing. It's not a tragedy that happened to her. She did it to save other people.
Right.
But it totally outed her and affected her life. So that in some ways is a tragedy. It was a violent.
I mean, she killed someone by accident.
She did kill someone. And she's living with that.
Right.
Now.
Right.
Not necessarily a tragedy to herself.
Right. I mean, she saved people, but.
Yeah. But that was something that we immediately connect with her.
Right.
Yeah. Make them liked by other characters. When you see other people liking someone, we tend to want to like them too. It's like they've been vouched for or something.
Yeah, absolutely. I like this one a lot. It brings in more depth to your story without, already being in the story.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that your character has already been liked by someone means that there is more to them than we have already met, which tells us, this person's a good person.
Yeah. What a lot of this comes down to is what your opening scene is, and keep Jen's question in mind, because we want to we want to have our reader connect immediately. We don't want to give them any reason to put this book down.
Right.
And so, you can have action and all this flair and excitement, but if there's no connection, we don't give a crap. So these are all ways to bring that in.
I think at the conferences that we go to, so the one that we went to last year, one of the agents on this panel, they read page 1 of people's books. I know we've talked about it on this podcast before, but assuming that you're new, we go to this conference in Atlanta, and there's a panel of agents who are read a page of people's books.
Yes.
And they're asked to say when they would stop reading
Yes.
that page. And one agent said, you know what? I don't want to read a running scene. Don't start with a character running. I don't care. Why are they running? I don't know. I don't care.
Yeah.
So, all action is not necessarily a good thing.
Right.
We don't know what they're running from. We don't know who this person is. We
And
don't care.
We have nothing in the game yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's a very good point. Give them motivation. Give your character motivation right off the bat.
That's a big one.
We understand motivation.
Yeah.
As human beings, we understand that. We respect someone that has a goal and works really hard for it.
Yeah. Some of my favorite characters are the ones who are almost like crazy in their determination.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of Scarlet from As Above, So Below.
Oh God, that's such a great.
She's crazy.
She is.
She's rash and she's reckless and she's hurt her friends in order to get what she wants. But I love the relentless determination that she has in order to get what she wants. Like that is something it is one reason that I love her so much is because she is relentless despite everything else.
And I think that comes out like right off the bat
from the
in
beginning.
That movie.
Yes. From the beginning.
Oh, that y'all, if you haven't seen that movie, it is probably my favorite horror movie.
Yeah.
As Above, So Below.
It also reminds me of Lara Croft. So the new trilogy of games. I love those games, but she's very young in these games, and she's like 21 or something like that. And she does very rash, relentless, reckless things where I'm like, you're not very smart, but you are very determined in what you want. And that kind of character draws me in.
Yeah, I think any reader can empathize with that. When you want something so bad it hurts.
Yeah.
And if you give that, but the key is working these things into that first scene so that, you don't have that slow pilot like we were talking about.
Right.
It gives us instant understanding of their actions when we understand their motivation.
Yeah.
And then give them conflicting motivations.
Yeah.
Right off the bat.
Absolutely.
Which makes them so interesting. We can't, as a reader, we were like, wait, what? Wait.
Yeah.
And so we can't put it down. We can't stop.
Because you got to see which motivation they go for. I mean, give them layers. You know, make these motivations compete. Make your reader choose between your main character's motivations. Make both motivations or all motivations
and you can do
enticing.
This later too.
Yeah.
You can do it right off the bat.
Absolutely.
Isn't that fun? I think it's fun.
I think it's fucking great. Oh, pardon my language. I've had some alcohol.
Yes.
But your character is automatically more likable if they need something.
Yeah.
Think about what your character has always wanted, what they've always gone for, and what they can't get. Make them have something that they've always gone after.
And how do you bring that out in the first scene? Or not even necessarily the first scene, but early enough on that your reader is hooked.
Right.
Yeah.
I will say that doing this research actually sparked a new book beginning. I don't know what book. It's
for
like
a brand new book?
Not necessarily. It's just a scene that I have that's like a concept of a scene that I have.
Okay.
And I think that's super cool. I think we could do a whole episode on motivations.
Oh, I think so too.
If we haven't already. I don't know if we have.
I don't think we have.
Cool. Then I think we could do a whole episode on motivations.
To write it down so we don't forget, because we'll be doing these podcasts and we'll say, "Oh, that's a great idea for a future podcast," and then we
forget about it.
We don't know what it is.
I know.
Let's see. Oh, and keep in mind that sometimes the main character of our
wow.
Yeah, I'm catching up with you. The main characters of our books are not nice people.
Right.
We don't always have
like anti-heroes.
A true hero. There are anti-heroes. So that doesn't mean we don't want our reader to connect with them. It's imperative that our reader connect with them.
Yeah, I think for those types of characters, like say you do have an anti-hero, someone who's not necessarily a likable personality, give them family ties. Give them those motivations that we were talking about.
I think so.
I think those are really good for characters like this, where we can kind of feel, oh, we've always wanted something this bad, therefore I understand this character and therefore like them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not necessarily about liking them. It's about connecting with them and understanding them.
I think connecting with a character is inherently liking them, but that's semantics.
I don't know that it is. because the books that I always go back to for the anti-hero are those Thomas Covenant books, and I can't remember who wrote them now. I'm sorry. He is an unlikable character all the way through. He is all woe is me, pity me. He is a leper, which of course he has reason to be upset, but he has forgotten humanity, and so we don't like him.
Right.
Your father hates those books.
Well, yeah.
But I don't think he ever connected with the character, whereas I connected with him. I understood that feeling of trauma, that feeling of loss, that feeling of being disconnected with everybody else.
I guess that's fair. I was trying to think of characters that I don't like, but that I connected with. Lothair, Kresley Cole's. No, shush,
love that book.
No, hush.
That's my favorite book of Kresley Cole's.
No, I hate Lothair.
I love him.
But he's funny. I don't like him.
He's snarky.
He's such a dick.
He's awesome.
No, he's an asshole.
He is awesome. But yes, you're right. He fits into that category where...
But I read the whole book and granted it's book 10 or something like that, so I already love her writing.
If it was book 1, I don't know that we could have stopped reading, just because she is an excellent writer. She is able to draw us into the story, whether we like that character.
She's very good at that.
The other main character, the female...
I don't remember her name.
I don't either, but
Elsie?
She is... It might be Elsie. It might have been Elizabeth, and he called her
something
Elsie
like
or something.
that, yeah.
And she is likable.
She is very likable. I love her.
And
Lothair
so
can go fuck off.
The interaction between her and Lothair and the growing, it's a romance, so the growing of their relationship, that is a brilliant book. It is one of my all-time favorite books. If you all have not read Kresley Cole, don't think, oh, it's a romance, I'm not going to like it, because there is so much more to that.
It's very good.
It is urban fantasy 100%.
I would say paranormal romance is technically a genre.
I understand.
But yes.
But I don't want people to say, oh, it's paranormal romance, I'm not going to read it.
Well, okay.
It is.
Yes.
It took me forever to get you to read those books because you had that connotation.
Well, and I still have that connotation. I still don't want to read romance. It's not what I read for personally as a reader.
But you love these books. So
I do.
It shouldn't be categorized as a romance necessarily.
No, I disagree. It's very much romance.
I mean, it is. But her world.
But it is very good.
Read them.
It is very good.
Read them.
It is. They're very good.
Okay, now I've lost my place.
Number 3.
Okay, so how do you do this all at the very beginning of the book?
Right, which is very difficult. I mean, from the get-go, we talk about page 1, you need to hook your reader, you need to hook an agent, you need to hook whoever you're trying to hook. Mm-hmm. So absolutely.
Yeah. So actually, you can do a lot. You can do a lot right there in the very beginning.
Yeah.
You can use the scene. You can use words, you can use actions, you can use reactions of other people to your character. You can bring all of these things into play right off the bat. It's
right from the beginning.
Yeah, you just take the time to think about it.
Yeah, and again, I'm going to stress that you should start with an action. Your character should be doing something. Mm-hmm. I don't think, you should start with, oh, it was sunny outside, or oh, it was stormy. Those have
a dark and stormy night.
Right, exactly. Those have become cliche, and I think that is automatically going to turn off a lot of people.
There is a time and a place for everything. There are rules that are made to be breaking.
Absolutely. But I have heard agents at that same conference that we were talking about earlier say, this is something I told you not to do. However, this one was really good.
Yeah,
so
this got me. I want it.
It can be done. But in general, to have a likable main character, the sooner we get to meet them, the sooner we get to fall in love with them.
Yes.
So start them off from sentence 1. Bring us into their story. Let us get to know them. And I think that will help us to like them from page 1.
I think so too. And I was trying to think of examples. I mean, to me, Harry Potter is the number one example of how to get your character, your reader involved from page 1. I mean, here's this kid who is forced to live underneath a stairwell with a bully who comes down the stairs and jumps on it and makes the dust, come
fall on him. He lives in a cupboard,
from the very beginning.
Yeah.
We love that little boy.
And I think that is a good example of, you know, he started with a disadvantage. He lives under the stairs. He lives in a closet, you know.
Yeah. Mac in the Fever series that you were
Right.
talking about.
Right.
So she starts off and we see her by the pool.
Yep.
And she's this blonde little Barbie girl and she's having a great time, but her sister has died and she doesn't even know it yet. And so we're sucked in immediately.
I love those books so much.
Karen Monning is the most brilliant writer. I like Kresley Cole and Karen Monning, and I don't know, and Patricia Briggs.
I think Karen Monning is at the top for me at the moment. I haven't read her books in a very long time.
Doesn't she have another one coming out soon? So
yes,
I got to reread.
February.
Okay.
So I need to reread.
I'm rereading.
I know. I need to also reread. I also just got like 7 books for Christmas. So
yay, Christmas.
I want to reread. I need to reread. But yeah. But Mac is a really good example of we immediately get sucked into her character because she's lost a sister.
First of all, she's this fun-go-lucky, blonde, beautiful girl whose her parents are out of town. She's at their parents' house, laying by the pool. All of us can connect with that right off the bat, too.
Right.
And then her sister dies.
Yeah.
And she gets sucked into Ireland, which... it's just,
and she's a Georgia girl, which you and I especially can
we do
empathize
with that. So you know, location may be another one of these little items that we come along with.
Right.
Let's see, Jane Yellowrock. She is the epitome of the cool factor.
She's got the motorcycles. She's got the leather.
She's so cool. She's got the long, gorgeous, straight hair. She's beautiful.
She's got the magic.
She's got magic. She's got that cool factor all the way around.
She's great. Admittedly, I've only read 3 of those books.
I think we listened to them.
No. We listened to half of one.
Because we would drive up to visit Courtney up in Indiana.
Yep.
And it's an 9-hour drive.
Yeah.
And so we would listen to books on tape. And this was one that we listened to, I thought.
We listened to half of one because it was on the way home.
Okay.
And we started it within that drive.
Okay.
So we only got to listen to some of it. I've read 3 of them.
The rest of them.
But I haven't read the rest of them. I think there are like 12 now. I could be wrong about that.
I've only read 2, actually.
Yeah.
Of them. But she is cool.
Yeah.
She's absolutely cool. And her
She's
magic
great.
is cool.
She's really great. And it's good writing. I need to go back to those.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've read the first 3 and I would love to read the rest of them. They're very good.
Yeah. She's pretty cool. So in my personal books, Trick.
Yeah.
She starts off fighting demons, but in that scene where she's fighting demons, I do inner thoughts that show her really dark humor.
Yeah.
It's another humor thing. Her vulnerability.
Yeah.
She messes up during that fight, which has never happened.
Yeah.
Which she is horrified by, and we can all, who hasn't made a mistake?
Up, right.
Yeah. And then we go and see her connecting with other people who like her.
Yeah.
And so I've got a lot of the things we've already talked about with Trick right
within that
in
scene.
Page 1 and 2.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Beck
then,
also has got that humor going for her right off the bat. Her voice is very strong. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I think I say this in a lot of our episodes. They say reading makes you a better writer. Mm-hmm. So, think about your own personal favorite book characters. What got you into liking them or not liking them? What made it like, I like this person, I want to keep reading this, versus I don't like this person, it's a do not finish.
So that's a really good advice, except for when people pull out their favorite books to look at them to see why they're going to get sucked back into them, and we won't see them until that book is over.
Listen, so we talked about Kresley Cole this episode. I have tried to study her. I have opened a book to a random page, started reading it just to study sentence structure, word usage, that kind of thing. And then I finished the book and I'm like, oh, it's 6 hours later. How did that happen? So yeah, that's difficult to do, but I think it's ideal to think about.
It is.
What is my favorite character? Why do I like them? I know.
But it is. I mean, I do the same thing. Patricia Briggs. I'll pull out a book I'm going to study because I know she does this type of thing well, and this is what I want. This is the type of thing I want to put in my book. How did she do it?
Right.
And then all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, I'm 500,
right.
300 pages into the book, and I'm done with it now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
So I have an interview question.
Okay.
What's your favorite tactic, which I think I know and our listeners probably already know, to use to get your audience to like your main character, and why? And you have to pick just one.
It's humor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do it really well with Beck. Beck is a great example of your humor side. Absolutely.
Thank you.
It's funny. I don't typically laugh out loud at books. If I do, it's typically just like a nose breath scoff kind of thing. I love your fairies. They're very good. Beck, as a normal human who gets tossed in with the fairies, is very humorous.
It is so funny.
It's amazing.
I think humor is my thing.
Yeah. Mine, I think, would have to be, after this podcast, The Disadvantage.
I think so.
I've given one. You mentioned Delaney's boss. She doesn't get paid enough.
Yes, she's poor, and she has a horrible boss, and she has to walk. She doesn't have enough money to have a car.
Right.
And all of these things are a disadvantage, and we all, as human beings in today's world, can understand that. We all feel for her right from page 1.
Absolutely. Yeah, and she cares for people.
And she loves people.
I show that she cares for people
right
in that first
off
scene.
the bat.
Yeah.
And you also use the technique of having another character like her, the guy with the socks.
Oh, Connor. Yeah.
Connor likes her.
Yeah.
He comes in to check on her right off the bat.
Yeah.
So we already know, she's been vouched for, so to speak.
Absolutely.
So you've used a lot of these techniques right off the bat. And
which is so funny, because I never think about it that way.
I know. It's a lot of it, and I think a lot of writers, and I said this before, do things by instinct.
Yeah.
We do. But it's kind of cool if you're stuck to listen to our podcast and
be like,
say,
I didn't think about that.
I didn't think about that. Let's try that.
Well, I do that as we do our podcast. I didn't think about this. I've been writing 10 years and I haven't thought about a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. At least not in concrete terms. Like you said, it's just instinct.
Abstract. Right.
Yeah.
So neat.
Yes.
There's one more thing that I want to talk about.
Okay.
So we have this sentence challenge that we've mentioned.
Yes.
Jen mentioned that she would be interested in this sentence challenge.
Yes. I love this idea.
So I think now would be a good time to talk about getting it started.
I think so.
I think each week, we'll end with a sentence that you can use in a page challenge. If you're interested in this, write one page, single or double space. It's up to you. The rules are pretty loose because I made it up. I do. Thank you for laughing. I do both. I've done single space and I've done double spaced. And then use the sentence that we give you in that one page somewhere.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be the starting sentence. Nope. It can be just used
anywhere in that page. Yeah. And the idea, it's basically a prompt to get you guys to write or whatever.
Yeah.
If you want us to read that page on our podcast, or you just want to share or talk about it, we don't have to share it with the podcast or whatever. Send them to our email at eat.drink.write.podcast@gmail.com. Mm-hmm. We would love to read them. I do them all the time. I get my friends to send me these sentences and I just write a page about them. And it's a really good way to work on my skills. Anything that I want to hone, like description or dialogue.
Not just that, but it prompts other ideas.
Right. Oh, Louie and Delaney, I've talked about it a lot on this podcast, is one of my books. Came from a sentence page.
Did it?
It did. Courtney gave me that page, that sentence.
I know you've told me that before, but I never remember that.
Yeah. So a lot of these prompts and sentences can lead to other ideas. I think I have personally on my computer like 300 something.
Wow.
Yeah, I have a lot of them. So we're talking about doing an episode each month where we will read these entries that we receive. We will start with these sentences next week. So this is the announcement for them. We'll talk about the rules again.
We'll put them on our website, which I'll actually do this time. I keep saying I'm going to put stuff on our website.
But I think we're really interested in hearing from you guys. And if you guys want to talk about writing, and we can get discussions going. And
I love the idea of us helping each other learn and hone our writing
craft. Yeah. So we'll start that next week.
Okay. And thank you all for listening.
Yeah. I might be too drunk to take over very suddenly. I'm usually pretty good at that.
Come look at it. Find our website, okay?
Yeah.
It is eatdrinkrightpodcast.com. We have our email there, our social media there. We've got Instagram and Twitter. Twitter is where we're probably most active.
Yeah.
Instagram is second active.
Yeah.
I try to do Pinterest, but that's not super active.
Right. We do have a Facebook.
Come find us. Come
email
talk to
us.
Email us.
Yes.
That's how Jen got in touch with
Yeah.
us. Honestly, she
Yeah.
emailed us and said, "Hey, you know, your quality of your recording isn't always that great, so we're working on that."
We are working on that. So send us an email. We're happy to talk. And thanks for listening.
Yes. Thanks for listening. Bye.